And tells them is that you're in danger because you're 12 times more likely to get killed by a black person. You live in fucking ain't nobody coming after you. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody tripping.
I don't know what he said there. You live in look how mad he gets here. Cross-eye sign of schizophrenia, by the way. Stay away. So he's making the point that you're actually not in danger, even though black people are 12 times more likely to kill you. You're not in danger because no one's coming for you. It's always this very like vague thing.
Tells them is that you're in danger.
Let's go back a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's why I said in
not at 12 times the rate. Not at 12 times.
So that's why you're gonna have that. That's why I said those numbers could be skewed and made to manipulate to look like. Oh yeah, that's why I said in
not at 12 times the rate. Not at 12 times the rate.
In suburban neighborhoods, white people are not in danger, and that's what this kind of fear mongering tells them is that you're in danger because you're 12 times more likely to get killed by a black person. You live in fucking ain't nobody coming after you. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody tripping on you. But these people are just as scared as the other folks.
They are if they get on a bus.
Not necessarily.
They are if they get on a train.
That lady wasn't in danger because that man was black. That lady was in danger because that man was crazy.
Nope.
See, there we go. There's always this overemphasis on the mental health aspect. Anything to deflect away from the fact that the killer is obviously like a black schizophrenic. Anything to obfuscate that fact. And I like that Crowder is holding frame here. But yeah, I mean, this guy, they always say this. This is a very common line. Like, you ain't in danger. Calm down. You ain't in danger until like they are killed, and then they blame black people, and then the whole cycle starts over again. It's like, like I said, would Irina on the Charlotte train be better off if the trains were segregated? Yeah, she'd still be alive.
That man was mentally insane.
But why was he back?
Family members. He had his own family members call the hospital to try to get him committed. He told his sister he killed that woman because he thought she was trying to read his mind.
Yep. Why was he let out, though? And I'm not saying it's because he's black.
Yeah,
I'm saying people look at it, though. The judge said
part of black fatigue.
He's insane, right? We agree.
That's not a black and white issue.
He was deemed not fit to stand trial, right?
Right.
Now,
he should have been institutionalized.
Right. The IOU policy, meaning you don't have to pay bail. Mm-hmm. You don't even have to stay here until you're actually convicted. You just say you'll come back.
Right, which is messed up.
Yeah, the judge.
Does he really believe that that's messed up, though? I don't think he actually believes that that's messed up, because I already know, and I forgot if I told this to. I think it was Jose Nino when I did an interview with him. What you have to realize about black people is that, and this applies to me too, what you have to realize about even your most well-spoken, well-to-do, well-meaning black person, think Clarence Thomas, think Larry Elder, even your most well-to-do, affluent, educated black person who's never stolen a Snicker bar in their life, never stolen a piece of gum in their life, even those people are only 1 degree at maybe 2 at most, at least 2, maybe 1, at most 2, maybe 1 degree removed from straight up degenerate criminality. Why I say that is because this guy's saying, well, they should have got him. They should have kept him. This guy says he doesn't support cashless bail. Is that really true? I'd be curious how many times this guy's been arrested. And I'd also be curious how many times a homeboy of his has been arrested and he says, free my nigga, free my man. They think about every rapper you've heard of who's locked up, and next thing you know, they're saying, free Pooh Shiesty, free Gunna, free Young Thug. What they're saying is they support cashless bail. Like, even if it's a murder case, they'll say free him. They don't really believe that. And the thing is that it's not intentional. He doesn't know what he believes. And this is what I was saying. There's no point in having these debates. He doesn't know what he's arguing. He's saying they should have kept him locked up. Okay, so you don't support cashless bail? No, I don't support cashless bail. Even for your homeboy who you say they wronged him, he does support cashless bail.
Teresa Stokes, black woman, said, well, this is about racial justice. We need to be softer on crime. So that's her reasoning. That's why he was out. And you can find dozens of examples.
That's her misguided reasoning.
There we go. See, that's the slippery nature of these racial arguments, is if you argue with black people, once you pin them on a point, they'll just say, well, that was that one. It's like, so Crowder correctly says the reason he was let go was for the purposes of racial justice. And he says, well, that was that judge. But we're talking about this case. What do you mean?
That's policy. But that's systemic, though, right?
That's not representative of a whole.
It's not. It's not. No. And look, we always have to say not all. Right. Like not all white people wear MAGA hats and are dumbass pieces of racist shit. But we have all been accused of racism, sexism, misogyny, homophobia. What I'm saying is black fatigue is white people going, you know what? I know I'm not racist. And I know that we're dealing with record crime, and I know that I'm more at risk, and they have negative interactions, and they're constantly told that they're not allowed to voice their fucking opinion because they're white. And if those people get pissed off, like that's where we actually could end up with some kind of, I'm telling you, I see this brewing. I see people who were milquetoast white suburban who are becoming actually racist. Now, not all of them, but I've seen people actually become racist because they get mugged, their store gets looted, and nothing gets done. They're going, and if I say something, it's turned into a racing. I'm telling you what, that's where it's coming from. At what point do we have a talk and go like, okay, let's reform justice, but we have to be honest as to why it was reformed in the first place. This guy, it's not even the only one. It's every 3 days someone's being offed.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as to what this guy says to that. But yeah, I mean, the problem with Crowder's framing there is that it does, and I'm going to be a little nitpicky here because I think it's an important conversation. Fundamentally, what Crowder's point is, if you guys keep doing bad stuff, it's going to be bad for you guys. He's saying people are becoming genuinely racist when they get mugged. I don't think the problem is them becoming racist. I think the problem is that they're getting mugged. Crowder says, if we keep this up, it's going to be really bad for you guys. You know, I don't really care if it's bad for the criminals. I don't care if, and you know what? I'll take it a step further. I don't really care if it's bad for the black business owner. Here's an anecdote. In this neighborhood where Crowder is filming, I believe where he's filming this video, it's a barbershop. I think it's in Deep Ellum. Look up the area, Deep Ellum. I have a friend, longtime friend who I've known since high school, black friend. He opened a vintage clothing store in Deep Ellum, not far from here, if this is where I think it is. He opened up a vintage clothing store, 90s vintage store. They sell shoes, shirts. They have arcade games. It's a cool store. And I do think that this black friend that I'm talking about is an exception to the rule. He's a smart guy, opened his own business, saved his money, got a business loan, opened a store that he had a vision for. Now he has multiple locations. Okay, I'm painting a picture of this guy. In 2020, when he was in the process of building his store, the BLM riots kicked off. Who do you think raided his store when he had the shoes and the shirts in there? Who do you think raided his store? Was it people looking like Steven Crowder? Or was it people looking like this guy? Was it people looking like him? Or was it people looking like this? It was people looking like this, obviously. And fast forward to today, that same person who owns the store, he debates me all the time whenever I post something anti-black on my Instagram story. Even the people who are even the black people who are victimized by black crime refuse to make it racial. I brought up that point to him. I said, I almost named him. I said, hey, friend, who was it that robbed and destroyed your store and you had to rebuild it? Well, it was black people, but it's not all black people. I'm like, I'm not saying it's all black people. You exist. I exist. I understand that. But even in that case, they cannot bring themselves to blame black crime. And that's what's happening right here. So that's why I say I'm not really too worried about, the fallout for black people might be crazy if they keep ruining society. I wouldn't say ruining society, but you get what I'm saying. If they keep victimizing white people, I'm not too concerned about how black people will feel about that. I'm more concerned about maintaining order. And if that means throwing some people in jail, then so be it.
Why it was reformed in the first place. This guy, it's not even the only one. It's every 3 days someone's being offed.
Yeah, but at the same time, let's transfer that over to, there's a lot of unsafe things in this world. Like getting mugged by a black person is not the paramount unsafe thing. There's school shootings, there's road rage, there's all of that shit.
Yep.
And the primary people that commit a lot of those are people who don't have this skin.
No.
So if switch it over, if black people say, well, we getting fed up and we tired of all these school shootings and all of these road rage and all that, who do we say something to? Who hears our voice?
And when does the white fatigue kick
And when does the white fatigue kick in?
Oh, now we got a new guy. Now this brother with the glasses chimed in and said, "Who do we blame?" Okay, so she doesn't even know what she should get out. She needs to leave. She should not be here. This should be a 6'3" jacked guy from Austria sitting there, not her. You do not need to be here. Anyway, yeah, I mean, there we go again, and this is what I call it, the Bryson Gray fallacy. Whenever you talk about black crime with Bryson Gray, he'll go, "What about sexual assault? What about child pornography? That's the white people doing that." What he doesn't, and Bryson just, I'm sorry, he doesn't have the cognitive ability to understand what per capita is. White people are actually adequately represented in child pornography cases. So we'll call it CP, so I don't keep saying that. Something like 60-65% of CP arrests are white people. 60-65% of the U.S. population is white people. So that's on par with their population representation. You can't say that about really any crime with black people. It's always an overrepresentation. I think there's like 2 crimes that white people are adequately represented on. I think it's DUIs, and they may actually be slightly underrepresented. I think it's DUIs and CP. I think those are like tax fraud or something, like high IQ crimes. But yeah, I mean, that's always the response, is to point out like school shootings. You know, if you really want to get into school shootings, anything more than 4, I believe 4 fatalities in a shooting at a school counts as a school shooting. Or I think 4 people shot. Those are vastly black people. So, I mean, even when you say that, and they're trying to flip it here, they're trying to get onto the line of, you guys commit crime too. That white people simply do not commit crime at the same rate that black people do.
That's the point, right? We've been hearing about it all our lives, about white fatigue, about systemic discrimination.
But nothing's ever been done. That's the problem.
It
It's
has
still
been done.
here.
Nothing's ever been done about white fatigue. We've literally organized our entire judicial system to account for white fatigue. There are entire departments in the government dedicated to making sure white people do not feel too comfortable. What do you think, like, Brown versus the Board of Education is? Like, what do you think the Civil Rights Act of 64 was? What do you think amnesty granted to illegals was? All of this stuff is to not let white people feel comfortable. Our entire criminal justice system operates around white fatigue, homeboy.
That's why we've done systemic justice reform that has led to more crime, right? That's the reason for no 3-strike policy. That's the reason for cashless bail. That's the reason for catch and release. The reason for it, in the wake of Black Lives Matter, George Floyd riots, Summer of Love, was we're going to reform crime, we're going to reform the justice system, and it's gotten worse everywhere it's been. And then when white people leave those neighborhoods, well, now it's white flight. If they come in, it's gentrification. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of people who are pissed off, and they're not going to sit down and have this conversation and be real about it. And they're going, well, what happens when someone has to keep their mouth shut about everything?
Nobody tell you have to.
And see, we'll get into it, but yeah, I mean, I get Crowder's point. I get what he's doing here, but what this does is it really just serves liberalism's priors. Like, the worst thing that can happen is black people being upset. A white woman dies on a train. How might that affect the response to black people? And I get it. There's some performance here. There's some rhetoric here of pushing the black crime issue by telling black people that they're going to start coming for you. I get that, but that should not be the message. The message should be like, this video would almost be more appropriate if he was talking to a room of middle-aged white guys and telling them, do not live near these people. You know what I mean? Like, he would almost use his time more efficiently if he told white people these things, like these inept Gen Xers and boomers, and told them, look, here are the stats. You need to get away from these people. He'd probably get more agreement, and he might actually change some minds and be like, you know what? I don't know that I want to live near that, actually. That's true. I don't want to, I may know the base black guy, and that's always the hurdle you have to overcome. But I may know the base black guy, but I don't want to live near them. Like, maybe that would enact some change. This conversation is not enacting any change whatsoever.
They're going, well, what happens when someone has to keep their mouth shut about everything?
Nobody tell you have to keep
That's
your
how they
mouth
feel.
shut.
That's how they feel.
I don't believe white people have to keep their mouth shut. I think white people don't speak up about a lot of the things that they do and they perpetuate that affects us negatively. That's the stuff that nobody wants to. That the issue.
Just a total side note, what always trips me out about these kind of barbershops and like a lot of these black communal spaces is how much jewelry they wear. And it's not subtle jewelry. That's the thing. Like the thing with jewel, this is such a tangent, but like the thing with jewelry is that it needs to be understated. If it's real, it needs to be understated. It needs to be like subtle. The black people do not understand the art of subtlety at all, unless this is a real, Audemars Piguet, Rolex. Rolex doesn't make faces that big, but you get my point. Like if this is a real iced out diamond watch, and this is a real like silver chunky chain, and then this thing he's wearing, that pendant is like real diamonds. This guy, if that's all real, this guy would be a multimillionaire. I strongly doubt that that's the case. And I know probably what people are, well, JB, you have on a necklace and a watch and okay, but all this is like, it's not fake. Like, and it's also understated. Like, I'm not wearing a chunky gold bracelet or silver and like a big ostentatious chain. Like, you get what I'm saying.
Aren't made about those things. I really respect the platform that you have because you do have open and honest conversations. And I have to say, I don't believe that those numbers about the
Good, she's leaving. She's getting nervous. She's like, this is getting heated.
have
I'm out.
open and honest conversations. And I have to say, I don't believe that those numbers about the black people murdering white people are correct. I don't believe those numbers
They
are
are.
correct.
What if they are? What if I'm not lying to you?
If you're not, then I've been misled and I've been isolated from realistic numbers. But I know in this country, from the time that we
That's what they'll do is they'll just deny the numbers. If you actually talk to this again, going back to point one I made in that tweet, you are fundamentally arguing with a child about Santa Claus. And I'm surprised this guy can deal with hypotheticals. Crowder goes, what if I'm not lying? And the guy goes, then I guess I've been lied to. They'll just deny the numbers. They'll just say that the FBI is a racist organization. Look what they did to MLK, and now they're lying about numbers to demonize us further. They think that every aspect of, and this is where ethno-narcissism comes in, they think that every aspect of life is there to thwart them. Everything from crime numbers to food stamps to, there was a study that came out a few years ago and it asked black people about how they feel about different institutions on the scale of, is this intentionally harmful to black people? Not were there effects peripherally negative for black people? No. Were these institutions intentionally anti-black? And something like 60 or 70% of the black community thought that the United States healthcare system is intentionally anti-black. It is intentionally racist. I mean, there's really no use in arguing with someone who thinks that when they go to the hospital, the doctor is like actively trying to kill them because they have harbored anti-black feelings from media. Like, do you see what I mean? Oh, I just noticed this guy has on 2 rings too. These diamonds are so fake. It's like, why? Why wear all this? Anyway.
Isolated from realistic numbers. But I know in this country, from the time that we got here and until now, there's never been hordes of black people that just go out and maraud and menace white people.
Since the time of this country's founding, there's never been, this guy's facial reaction's funny, there's never been a horde of black people that have marauded white people. Can you think of a recent example where that may not apply? Let's just go back 5 years to George Floyd. And I know it's trite at this point talking about the Floyd riots, but what else was that other than groups of marauding blacks terrorizing white people? I don't even know how else you would define that. And it's like he says that with zero irony. Like, of course not. Of course there's never been a horde of black. Yeah, dude, it's called downtown on a Saturday night. And to be fair, Dallas doesn't get the worst of it. I love the city of Dallas personally. But let's just go to Chicago. Let's go to Detroit. Let's go to Baltimore. Let's go to Philadelphia. Do you stand by that statement? But you could show them those videos, and there's just no acceptance.
Now, interactions happen and things do occur. I'm not saying that they don't, but not by and large in number. We can't be this small a percentage of the overall population and still have the numbers that people try to perpetuate onto us.
It's just this inability to grapple with the idea that black people do commit a disproportionate amount of crime. I mean, listen to what he says. He says there's no way we own, like it doesn't work in his mind that black people would represent a smaller percentage of the population, but do a disproportionate amount of the crime. It doesn't work with his worldview when it's 100% true. We all know it's true. For him, and these are the kind of people you're arguing with. They just don't. The numbers don't click. It couldn't be that black people are responsible for a vast amount of the crime, vast majority of the violent crime. But if you were to tell him that white people are responsible for the vast amount of tax evasion, he'd say, "Yeah, that's true. That's probably true." It's this reflexive tribal instinct.
See, black people do more harm to other black people than we do to other white people.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Because
people are close.
That is a little bit more of an advanced argument in the crowd. The crowd goes wild when he says, "Yeah, like, we hurt each other more." Okay, fair enough.
To other black people than we do to other white people.
Well, that's true. That's true. Because people are close. That's
And
true.
we also have historical evidence of groups of white people attacking and chasing black people.
So it's
coming after.
So
Like,
when people
we have
say
historical
it's not
evidence
happening
of it.
now.
So when
I'm just saying,
and that's the point. Is we're at a precipice right
that's
now.
a part of the historical condition.
Well, sure, but someone today.
Hold on.
Yeah,
I wasn't
Big
finished
Mike, go.
making my point.
Sorry,
I
bro.
wasn't finished making my point. When like I said, black fatigue, that's the newest mantra that's been put out into society to make people think that, okay, they tired of black people. They tired of what you said, that we can't say anything about black people. We can't do. Well, when you hold all the power, when you hold all the economic rights, when you hold all the things that make this country move, when you're in charge of those things, you know what I'm saying? Well, you know what? I put it like this. White people got the firecrackers, we got the stem. That's it. Y'all got the power. The power is placed outside of the black community.
Can I
we're
Place. There's always this this hands-off thing. It's all theoretical to them, or not even theoretical. It's that black people, in their minds, black people have no agency. And I really try to push back on that idea. Like, listen to what he said. Listen for this next time you listen to these kind of people. It was placed. The wealth is placed outside of the black community. It's because they at a certain, and I'm just going to be honest, at a certain IQ level, you have an inability to struggle with things that are theoretical or that aren't physical and tangible. So in his mind, wealth is like a pallet of cash that is placed in a neighborhood. So when he sees a white neighborhood, he sees, man, they got all the money, because he thinks that they like literally received a pallet of cash and with a note on it that says, "To the white people, here is your daily privilege amount." He thinks that black people just weren't in the right spot when the money was distributed. It's like, no, your actions created that. Your behavior created that. If black, and Nick has said this is a good point, if black people behaved like Asians do, you would see investment in the black community. You're actually seeing investment in the black community in spite of a lot of the violence, because a lot of banks incentivize first-time black homeowners, black business owners, all that kind of stuff. So even in spite of the crime, you're seeing like an over-representation or something of investment that would naturally happen. When a store like Target or Walmart leaves Chicago or downtown Detroit because they just can't deal with the theft numbers, I mean, that's the free market working in effect, working in practice. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these small businesses, if the banks were just like totally honest about where they're investing, about who's running the business, they would decline to fund it. But if a bank doesn't fund enough black people, doesn't lend out enough to black people, well, then that's an example of of racism. There's a legal term for it. I forgot. But yeah, you don't have to have the intent of racism, but if you're just not loaning enough money out to them based on the crime stats, the median income, blah blah blah, then yeah, I mean that's disparate impact theory. That's what it is. Then you are committing disparate impact. There's a disparate impact on black people, so therefore you got to give them money. It's everything in our society has been set up to not make the people in this room feel too bad about the situation they created.
Got the power. The power is placed outside of the black community. We're charged with all the negative things. Those are the things that are really generally coincide with how people relate to us. The bad stuff that's go wrong with this world is the black people's fault. We the smallest part of this country. Remember that. You know what I'm saying? Beside the immigrants that come here. We have.
He's wrong. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. The immigrants are a bigger share of the U.S. population than black people. And black people, what's happening right now, bigger picture, is that basically what's happening with black people is they're realizing a lot like a newborn child. Let's say not a newborn, let's say a 2 or 3 year old child. They're the only born child to their two parents. They get all the attention, they get all the resources, permanent attention on the 2-year-old child. What black people are experiencing is a new child coming into the mix. The immigrants, the Indians, the Asians, the Jews to a certain extent. Black people struggle with slowly being forgotten, and black people are starting to have to come to grips with that like you're not the only child anymore. And I don't support this. I'm just stating what is. We have it's not even multiracial. We have a multicultural society now. We have a patchwork of different immigrant groups living in different neighborhoods, states, cities, and black people are not the only child anymore, and they're having to come to grips with that.
We have been tasked with the negative,
We've, again, no ownership. He said we've been tasked with the negative, like the manager was handing out tasks. Black people, you will have the negative task. White people, you will have the positive task. No, dude, this is a result of your own behavior, dude.
The criminal, the immoral, that's us. And that's what we consider, that's white fatigue. But you know what we do? We just say, that's just how it's always been. So we don't make up words for it or terms for it. So now you have a frustrated group of white constituents that feel like, oh, we can't say anything. We have to do this. We have to do that so you don't be deemed as that. Well, if you wasn't that in the beginning to start with, there would be no need for the reform or the feelings that you have. You can't say anything about because you done treated us like shit for so long, and people finally stood up and said, hey, you got to stop treating us like shit. Now that you want to feel like, things aren't going in the manner that you want them, now we want the right to keep saying those things.
What if your premise is completely flawed? And what I mean by that is if we're trying to understand it, you said you have power in all those institutions.
Yes.
What if, for example, you have an entire generation of people, young white men, women, who if they apply to a college or apply to a job, they don't have a grant, there's no Pell Grant, there's no type of subsidy, there's no DEI initiative. As a matter of fact, they're likely to be passed over. They hold no institutional power. And when you say black people haven't done anything, when you think of this white person, a young white person, because I'm seeing some people become radicalized and it can become a problem. Yeah. And then they see billions of dollars and riots and damages all summer long, and then they go, why is this happening? Black Lives Matter, right? So they're going to make that connection. Now, they have no institutional power, but if they go into a neighborhood that's largely black, they're going to get the shit kicked out of them. And they're being blamed for something that supposedly their racist forefather did that they have nothing to do with. You think we're ever going to have unity? This is the problem. Unity, if let's say your dad's a or your grandfather's a and you walk up and you slap his teenager, you now have made that person hate you for life. And that's what I'm seeing with not even my generation. Younger people are going, I had nothing to do with this shit. They came up during the riots. They've come up under DEI, and they're seeing a 12-time murder rate, skyrocketing crime, and any proposals they make not holding institutional power shut down as racist.
Now, why was DEI even instituted in the first place? Because
right. It's always going to go back to anything that you correctly identify as like a problem with race, or a problem with anti-racist initiatives. They're going to say, well, the reason we had to do that was because y'all was so horrible. Look, I'm at the point now where, look, do I think some negative things happened, some bad things happened pre 1965? Do I think some racism, violence happened towards black people for the color of their skin happened? Yeah, sure. But for the most part, I, you know, this is a pretty popular meme on Twitter now. But, when MLK said, I want to be judged for the content of our character, not the color of our skin, I'm starting to believe that they were being judged for the content of their character by and large. Were there injustices that happened? Sure. But it goes back to when people say, like, in the 40s, blacks were based and well behaved. And in the 50s, we just need to go back to 50s blacks. Even then, the black people were disproportionately represented in violent crime, single parent households, stuff like that. Yes, I do think that there was probably an injustice that needed to be remedied, but I'm not going to go back because you can't just totally believe their premise that, well, the reason that everything that we get what we get now is because y'all was so bad to it. I don't know, man. I mean, there was probably some genuine reaction to violence that, I don't think that people wanted to separate just because. I don't know. Maybe that's an edgy take. I need to flesh that out a little bit more, but I don't think that it was just this random, like, we hate them randomly. There was probably some behavior even back then that led people to
Because
what they eventually enacted into law.
for the majority of time that black people have been in this country and been free, we've been denied so much. Somebody somewhere had to put some things in place to provide access of some kind.
If you believe that, that's fine, but you can't tell that young
It's not
white
that
kid who had nothing to do with it that he should just sit down and take it, especially when they're getting killed at 12 times.
That's what America's been telling us for the longest.
The young
We
white
ain't had
man
nothing to do with a lot.
that has to
Not
deal
in my
with the
lifetime.
DEI, the young person of this generation that you said that feels they're misled by the being mistreated by the DEI.
I'm just using it as an example. They don't hold any institutional power. Young white people don't. They don't have an advantage.
Not yet, because they're young white people. They haven't advanced to where they're middle-aged white people, where the power comes. See, what black
As if when white people turn 30, they get the privilege card. Hello, white sir. Hello, Mr. Grayson. You've hit 30. Here's your money. You've made it. That doesn't happen. It happens because of their actions. And the reason that a 30-year-old black man is likely has a 33% chance of having a felony on his record is because of his actions. It is not just a random distribution, or not even random, a concerted, conscious distribution of the wealth. It's because of your actions. White people end up better off in their lives after 30 or whatever because they have made choices that have led them to that result. This guy is saying, well, yeah, the reason they disenfranchise is because they're young white people. It's like, no. And he says, but when they get older, they're going to have that privilege. Like, yeah, because their actions led them to that. If a young white guy spends his life smoking meth and breaking into cars, yeah, at 30, he probably is going to be meeting Tyrone and Jamarquius in jail. But that doesn't happen for the most part because their choices have led to that.
people, once again, when you got colleges that denied access to black people, you can't come here. Something had to be put in place. Well, look, y'all got to let some black people come here. Y'all can't just exclude
That started happening long before DEI.
But see, I
All DEI
Long before black people were admitted into colleges, HBCUs.
Hold on, let me say what I'm trying to say.
My bad. My bad. I'm trying to make it clear.
He's trying to do a senior Wences and talk through you. So
Well, because you trying.
I like this guy actually. I don't agree with this guy, but he's trying to play mediator. He's like, all right, my bad. He's like the host for Crowder. He's probably, honestly, this guy probably owns the shop. And this guy, he has an affectionate look. He's like, this, I don't know what this guy's doing. But this guy's trying to play middleman. This guy respects Crowder. I mean, look, here's the thing. There doesn't have to be this animosity between the races. I agree with that. I do think that that unity is a good goal. I think it's a little naive. I don't really see that happening. In a perfect world, these people have their own neighborhood that they can make better. They probably do live in a largely black neighborhood. They have their own neighborhood they can make better. Crowder has his own neighborhood that you can leave your bike outside and not worry about it getting stolen, and we keep it moving. I don't like having to do this reach out to a community that maybe they don't hate Crowder. The reason they're treating Crowder like this is because he's famous. Black people are hyper aware of when someone has motion. Um, if this were a random white guy with no cameras and he said, "Let me talk to y'all about black crime," they would have kicked him out of the shop. The reason you see this affectionate look on this guy's face and this look of, all right, my bad, man, I'm just trying to, is because they know that Crowder is rich and famous. He has security that will not let him get beat up. And that's kind of a model for the world. If black people know that like they can't mess with you, then they'll play nice. If Crowder walked in as a nobody and debated them about this, they say, "Get the hell out of here, man. I'll kick your ass if you keep talking like that." The reason you get this look on the face is because Crowder is rich and famous.
No, I get it.
DEI is just a new way of wrapping affirmative action.
Yeah.
Affirmative action had to be put in place because there was the access being denied. So the legislation had to be put in place. Well, look, we can't just exclude all of them. So somewhere along the line, they have to be allowed some access. Okay, that was put in place. Now, fast forward till now, those same things that are put in place for those people back in those generations that are still in place, they're not excluding people from getting to places they're just still trying to keep those doors open so that those black people that were coming through that door can still get in. Because if you remove those, over time, we will be denied the access again.
If a black person has lower SATs, right, and lower GPA, should he get in over an Asian or a white person?
Let me ask.
If all things are supposed to be laid out equal, no, you shouldn't get. If you don't have it,
That's what's
have what
happening.
it takes to get in. No, but
It is happening, and I'm telling you, young white dudes are pissed.
That's
I'm
not
telling
the
you.
majority of what's happening. It
is happening.
Small part.
It is
As it
happening.
relates to DEI, first of all, DEI has been more beneficial. I'm a former commercial contractor, all right? DEI and affirmative action have benefited white people vastly more so than black people. All you gotta do is look at the business.
What a ridiculous statement. I've heard this before. This seems to be the new talking point that's gotten filtered down to these people, is that white people have benefited most from DEI. Listen to this.
I'm a former commercial contractor, all right? DEI and affirmative action have benefited white people vastly more so than black people. All you gotta do is look at the business ownership or what have you, and you notice that as long as that white female happens to be 51%, then she qualifies as a minority and a double minority because she's white, she's among the minority in business ownership, and she happens to be a female, right? So you look at that based on population dynamics, and that automatically tells you this whole thing about this whole thing about DEI was, number one, not as much targeted towards blacks as much as it was targeted towards minorities, which includes that LGBT.
I agree.
Right? So
Yeah, I mean he is right about the female DEI part. I don't know what he meant by 51%. I mean, but all of that stems from like Title IX in colleges. It all stems from DEI. It all stems from this. It's really just liberalism. This desire to make everything equal when nothing is equal. Equality is not a trait, a characteristic found in nature. You would never look at two trees and say, are they equal? One might be wider, one might be taller, one might have a thicker trunk, whatever. Nothing is equal in society. You would never look at two babies born out of the blue and be like, how can we make them equal? One will be taller, one will be faster, one will be smarter, one will be fatter, one will be better playing the piano, one will be better at throwing the football. The idea of that whole thing that he's highlighting there about, well, women get a double minority, it's because of liberalism, and black people are the biggest beneficiaries of liberalism because everything being equal, black people would be underrepresented in anything that is considered upper echelon, high status, because frankly, the IQ and other things wouldn't allow them to be there. So black people benefit. I don't know what he's talking about, white women, and that is actually a good point. White women do somewhat benefit from DEI, but even that is a strain of the liberalism disease that black people primarily benefit from. So, I mean, what I would say to this guy is, yeah, we need to eliminate all DEI, even for the women. Like, it doesn't apply to white people. There's a reason he didn't say she benefits from her white race. No, you don't benefit from that in DEI. Being a woman, he's right, and being LGBTQ, whatever, you do benefit. But yeah, get rid of all of it, and including the black people benefiting. They wouldn't support that.
When we talk about that, we need to really deal with the real problem. And as it relates to the riots, let me tell you something right now. Listen, in the black community, I'll be the first thing now. We do have intractable problems that are not going to be solved in one conversation. But what I'm going to say about that, as well as the reason why the black community becomes so infuriated, all right, is when you see gross negligence of justice or misjustice happening and nobody does anything. When this guy kneeled on this man's neck, was going back to George Floyd. Look, if he had done something when he was subdued and on the ground, what was the real reason for kneeling on his neck except to inflict fatal harm? What was it?
I can tell you exactly what it was, and I can tell you why you're not
So now we're getting into Floyd. We're going to get into George Floyd here.
recognizing the problem, because the opinion polls, and I'm not saying right or wrong, the opinion polls have changed on George Floyd since I last spoke with you. You know why?
Why is that?
All the body cam footage came out. You know what? You know why? Because he was there for 12, 15 minutes, asked to be put in the car. They put him in the car, asked for air conditioning, gave him air conditioning, asked to be taken out of the car. They took him out of the car. He wouldn't stop moving. People have watched it now and go, you know what? It's not what I thought it was. You know how many times he was arrested before that? 9. He shouldn't have been. You know.
That is true. I mean, I'll give Crowder that point. The body cam footage thing is kind of a red pill. I do think, and I'm not the first one to make this point, but like, I do think the body cam footage in general, like the accessibility to body cam footage has shaped a lot of people's has reshaped a lot of people's opinions on racial issues. The talking point when I was growing up was that the cops just shut off their body cam footage whenever it looks bad for them. Okay, well, now we're even seeing cases like George Floyd, which should be hands down cops were in the wrong. People are seeing even that body footage and are saying, okay, so Derek Chauvin wasn't totally wrong here. People are getting some insight into kind of what black behavior looks like when they're getting arrested. So I big agree with Crowder there.
Would have saved him? 3-strike policy. He robbed a woman at gunpoint with a child in the house. And so white people look at it, young white people, right, who you have to understand during COVID, this is a whole generation of people. White people did not have any fucking opportunities during COVID. They didn't get to go to the graduation, college, black, white, all of them, right? It's a generation that's pissed. Rightfully so, they got screwed. I think we can agree on that. They're going, I watched my city burn down for a guy who was arrested 9 times and committed violent crimes against women. What?
Now, you know, let me say
That's a travesty of justice. He shouldn't be out in public.
Let me say this to you.
How many felonies does President Trump have on his record? Yeah, he was.
They always do this. I've heard this. What about President Trump felonies? Look, man, he's being wrongfully attacked by the judiciary that lets George Floyd free. I don't know yeah, man, I don't know what you want me to tell you here. It's so tedious.
Still allowed to occupy the most.
No criminal felonies.
He has no criminal felonies, but he's got moral felonies, which would, if there was a court of justice for that, he probably would be tried a long time ago. I mean, let's talk about it.
Is this where we all get on board with crazy white bitches who accuse women of rape?
No,
like, I'd probably find she accused 26 men of rape, that crazy broad.
But here's the reality, though. And when you look at the convergence of this new agenda where you're going strictly into blue cities, why is it that most of those blue cities also happen to be occupied, the areas they're going in are heavily occupied by minorities? Why is that so?
Yeah, because most minorities are committing crime in the heavily minority areas. Why he deploying troops in the minority areas? Maybe because like black people are populating those areas and they're committing the crime, maybe.
Well, black people tend to vote Democrat, and they're run by Democrats. Detroit, you can look at it. You can look at Chicago. Is that what you mean?
I mean, no, that's not what I'm asking you at all. What I'm asking.
No, he's not asking. He's making it more racial than Crowder is. This guy's saying, why is it the black cities? And Crowder's like, but Democrats. No, dude, it's black people. It's not Democrats.
you is, like I said, with this all-out assault right now. Just last night, they were talking about something in Chicago, right? Where 1 o'clock in the morning, you had people in military gear, what have you, helicopters and all this kind of stuff like this here, not just knocking doors down, but dragging people out.
Because it's the murder capital of the country. You just said black people are more harmed by this. We don't want to take out murderers?
No. I think really what you're confusing what I'm trying to say to you.
Are you talking about the National Guard in Chicago?
No, what I'm trying to say to you is this, though. If we're going to talk about the problem, let's talk about the problem in its totality. The fact about it is, when you talk about white America being pissed, white America is going to always find a reason that doesn't fit their narrative or what have you. But what white America fails to talk about, and what never ceases to amaze me, is the fact that the biggest threat is not going to come from blacks. The biggest threat is coming from within. You look at the average person that's been committing some of the most heinous crimes over the days, it's 22 to 29-year-old white males, right? Look at how ready they were.
It's just not true, man.
Okay, good on Crowder. That is factually untrue. The most heinous crimes are committed by white men 22 to 29. That's just not true at all. I'm good on Crowder. You have to just reject the framing. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Insofar, I've kind of shifted what I was talking about this video. Insofar as you're even doing these debates with people, I don't think you should. I think Crowder needs to be talking to white people and telling them to separate. That's my opinion. But insofar as you do have these convos with white people or with black people, you need to just reject the framing. You can't say, well, I see your point. That is true that white men do some bad stuff, but no, you have to say that's just not true. That's not true.
The 29-year-old white males, right? Look at how ready they were.
It's just not true, man. Violent crime, you just said, like you said, a small percentage of the country, about 12 to 13%, 50% of the violent crime, but the murder, a 12 times likelihood.
That's a skewed stat.
If you just, so you don't listen to them?
No, I said that particular stat is skewed.
It's not skewed. These are from the FBI.
This guy's going Chat GPT.
Don't listen to them?
No, I said that.
This guy's looking up Chat GPT. He's like, well, hey, Chat, tell me why that 1350 stat is skewed. It's not skewed. It is a per capita stat that they have trouble understanding.
That particular stat is skewed.
It's not skewed.
If anything, it's skewed for black people. 1350 is really like 649 because out of that 13%, it's almost like it's vastly male. So it's probably something like 5 to 6% commit like 48% of the murders if you take out the women and you take out the elderly blacks. It's young black men from like 15 to like 25.
From the FBI, DOJ, and you know what else we look at? We look at Roland Fryer from Harvard, who conducted it. Black guy, black professor, really respectable guy, honorable man, conducted a study, and he came out and he said, yeah, all of my research says that black men are 0% more likely to be shot by police officers than whites. Black people got so mad at him, he reconducted the study, a black man from Harvard, and he came to the same conclusion, and now he's not black enough.
Wait, so let me see if I understand you clearly.
Yeah.
You're saying, according to this guy's statistics, right, that black people are 0% less likely to be shot by a white police officer.
A liberal professor at Harvard, yes, and he conducted it twice. Because black people said what you're saying. He goes, look, I was as surprised as you. I was trying to find how much worse it is. My data showed me it's not. He reconducted the study an entire time. Now, he did come to the conclusion that an officer is 18 times more likely to be shot than a black man by an officer. This is a black liberal who studies statistics. At what point do you listen to him?
And I don't believe him.
That's skewed too.
Institution, and if he comes out and says something of the sort, there's no telling the backlash that he may not get. Listen, there are token blacks in every society.
There we go. Oops. There we go. It's every time. It's every time without fail. If a black person says something that they disagree with, well, he's a token. I've gotten that before. You're a token black. Your opinion is invalidated because you're disagreeing with me. So this guy heard the stats. I think he understands what Crowder's saying, maybe not. And he's saying, well, he a token black. And he said that if he had come to different conclusions and said that black people were more likely to be shot by cops, then he'd be canceled. And this just shows that there's no like understanding of how the world works. There is no world in the year of our Lord 2025 where a black statistician is being canceled for discovering that black people are discriminated against. If anything, that would win him an award. There's just this misunderstanding of how the world works because these people. Well, anyway, they're not worldly. They're yeah.
That he may not get. Listen, there are token blacks in every society. I mean, all you have to do is look back throughout.
And there we
history,
go.
right?
And Uncle Tom, this guy, like, come on.
No, but here's my thing. Here's my thing, Steve. Right?
Steven's reaction is me all day.
And Uncle Tom, this guy, like, come on.
I agree. I'm finding myself agreeing with Crowder more and more. I mean, what is he, an Uncle Tom? Come on. These are the same people that beg and plead for black people to get into Harvard. Please let us in. The black guy gets in and doesn't exactly find racial discrimination in police shootings, and they go, Uncle Tom, and Crowder's like, oh, come on.
No, but here's my thing. Here's my thing, Steve. Right? I'm not alleging that the guy wasn't Uncle Tom, but let's be frankly honest. How many shootings have happened in most recent history that have involved black men that have been unarmed? And you sit here and use that analogy that black men are analogy times. Listen, as a totally blind individual, listen, I'm even apprehensive. That was
he's blind. Oh, damn. Okay. Damn.
Where the police stopped us, and it was my cousin and I. My cousin is a retired military.
And see, this is also the trap. This is why I say that these debates it's not fruitful. There's nothing being gained here because anytime you talk about the abstract with black people or other racial groups, but we're talking about black crime. Anytime you talk about black crime in the abstract with people like this, and I've experienced this too, they want to point out the individual. So you could say 13 does 50 and they say, well, that's because the police hate us. And then Crowder says, no, they don't hate you. They're actually incentivized to do cashless bail and let you go. It's actually black behavior that results in black shootings and over incarceration, blah, blah, blah. And then the person goes, one time I was in the back seat with my cousin and we wasn't doing nothing and they pulled us over. And how do you explain that? It's like, man, I don't know I don't know how to explain that to you. Maybe you were in a bad area. Maybe I know this is insane. Maybe you're lying. Maybe you're lying about what y'all were doing and you've internalized the lie. Maybe you hid a little weed under your seat and they saw you earlier buying some weed. I don't know, man. Maybe you're lying. Maybe the cops had a good reason. I don't know. I'm not here to litigate every case of a black person being arrested. All I know is what the numbers are bearing out.
Vet or what have you, right? And immediately when we got out of the car, out of fear of possibly being shot, the first thing I did was raise my cane and say, officer, I said, listen, I am totally blind. Before we get out of hand with this, right? Now, I shouldn't have had to react like that. But when you start looking at what's really happening in this country, many times because see, here's the deal. I don't care if you put on a uniform. You can't legislate the heart of a man and his intent, all right? And many times these officers do allow that badge to give them impunity to operate and exercise their racism. Let's be honest here, Steve.
Some of them do. By the way, I just find it funny that when I came up and shook your hand, you didn't tell me you were blind this whole time. I was like, I must have woke you up. You could have said, dude, I'm blind. I was like, oh, my bad. I'm sorry. This whole thing. You just throw that out there like a cluster bomb. I'm like,
Say you should have waved his cane when you came in.
That's kind of funny. That's an endearing moment. Good on Crowder. Crowder, you know what? This video is making me like Crowder a little bit more, to be honest. He's kind of a goofball, but he's a goofball and he shouldn't be doing this interview because it leads people to believe they should debate people like this when really they need to separate. But he is good at getting buy-in from people.
I was like, I must have woke you up. You could have said, dude, I'm blind. I was like, oh, my bad. I'm sorry. This whole thing. You just throw that out there like a cluster bomb. I'm like,
Say you should have waved his cane when you came in.
I feel like an asshole in the middle of the room.
That's what I told you when you said, "Is he sleep behind the glasses?" I was like, "No, he just can't see you."
Hey, look, I thought you was making a joke. I said, oh my God, here's this condescending asshole here.
It's okay. He forget he blind sometimes.
I had no idea.
No, man, but
I agree. You can't legislate what's in a man's heart.
Yeah.
But you can't throw out everything. You can't go, that's skewed. That black guy from Harvard who was always a liberal who did it twice, it's skewed. You can't throw it out.
How often do you see black police killing unarmed white people?
Actually,
How often do you see that?
What is he talking about? See, he's just grasping at straws at this point. One of the biggest stories of the year, I think in 2020, was it 2023 or 24, There was that whole story in Memphis about a group of like 6 black cops that beat the hell out of that guy. It was Tyree Nichols. They beat the hell out of him, and black people tried to make it a racial issue until they found out that it was all black cops. Black cops beat the hell out of black people, rightfully so, in my opinion, but whatever. Yeah, this happens all the time. Black cops are like notoriously like they go hard on black criminals, and maybe it's not a shooting, but this is what happens. You get in the weeds here, and they just start. It started off as just kind of like a meta discussion about black crime, and the next thing you know, the blind guy is telling you, well, what about the time I got pulled over? What does that prove? What I'm saying here is that there's no end game here. You're not going to get anywhere with these people. So it is better, it probably works if you're Steven Crowder, right? Probably works if you have security and a camera crew and a team and you set it up ahead of time. Sure. But this just gives fuel to people who are like, yeah, I'm going to go debate the black community about crime. It's like, no, dude, you need to be focused on separating from these people, because nothing you're going to say in this barbershop is going to convince them, hey, maybe we should do some things different. Absolutely nothing.
How often do you see that?
Well, I tell you, actually, the stats show that when you're dealing with armed white people versus black armed people, white armed people are more likely to be shot by the cops than black.
White armed people.
They just won't believe that. This is what I'm talking about. Just a total disregard of the stats. That what Crowder just said is true, but they won't believe it. Doesn't matter what he said.
People, white armed people are more likely to be shot by the cops
This is going to cause a ruckus.
than black.
White armed people are more likely to kill police officers. Look at what happened in Kansas where those 5 police
Let's call the
officers were
stats a
gunned down.
wash on that. Here's what I do know. Everyone wanted the body cam footage, and I agree. I was like, we should have body cam footage. We should have accountability for police officers, right? And we were to believe after the era
He's getting into the body cam footage question, which is real. Body cam footage has red pilled a lot of people.
remember, we went through Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, Mike Brown, obviously George Floyd. There were so many that you could use as examples. We thought that we'd have a rash of body cam footage showing us the police brutality. You haven't seen body cam footage of note in the last year. Once that footage came out, it's about a 20-to-1 ratio where you see someone getting violent with an officer. We have not seen what we thought we would see. And now people are going, okay, so maybe not the body cam footage.
That is true. I mean, that's what's happening in mass right now is people like that example you just used is what's happening as a whole. People are seeing the body cam footage and are saying, not what I thought it was. That's what's happening. He is right about that.
Right? We thought we'd see all the abuse.
Wait a minute.
Reflects
Before
the
you
stats.
jump off of that point, what about the body cam footage where we see white people and white police and the white citizen is being belligerent with the police, but the police showing extreme restraint?
And he's right about that. I actually agree with the black guy on this point. What about the white police that show extreme restraint? You know why? And I hate to say it. It's because they know that the guy doesn't have a gun and he's not going to come at them with a knife. I'm sorry, cops. You know, as a cop, you do have to be like a pattern recognition machine. And yeah, like I watch On Patrol Live. I don't know if anyone's a fan of that show. It's like Modern Day Cops. On Patrol Live that's the reason it's my favorite show, is because you can literally see the differences with how belligerent whites act and belligerent blacks act. When the cops show up to a belligerent black scene, there's a fight and it's like a block party of like 50 black people, rest assured there's going to be 10 black people surrounding the cops saying, well, what's y'all bad number, trying to hit the cops. When it's a white fight, they go, yeah, officer, we're going to let y'all do y'all's thing. And I'm not saying that there are no belligerent white people. What I'm saying is that cops have realized, like, I'm probably not that likely to get killed by a white guy. It's probably going to happen from a black guy.
In dealing with that person, whereas black people will reach for your wallet, bow, you get shot. I got a phone in my hand, bow, you get shot.
And I'm
not doing anything,
and
bow, you get
The
shot.
stats don't reflect it.
but
But
here's the
white
thing.
people are being killed in record numbers right now, and they're pissed. And if you keep just not listening to them, look, like you said, white people in the majority of this country, you have young white people who are getting more and more mad. I'm just telling you the truth.
What they mad
And they
at?
have the
Black
guns.
people hold
They're
no
mad because
power.
this
Why
thing.
they mad at
Here's
black
why.
people?
Here's why. They go, look, I'm 12 times more likely to be killed by a black person than you are a white person. And you go, well, that doesn't count. They go, look, my dad's business got burned down.
Yeah.
And where?
My city got burned down. I've been accused of being a racist, even though I'm not. And I'm looking at this right now, and I'm not allowed to have an opinion, and I can't go into certain neighborhoods because I get my ass kicked, and then you just say, yeah, but you've had systemic power. That is a surefire way to breed racism.
Let's be frank about that.
And see, look, that's really boiling down Crowder's entire worldview in like 30 seconds there. Listen to what he said at the end.
Yeah, but you've had systemic power. That is a surefire way to breed racism.
His concern here, and I get he has to be tactful here. He can't go in there, and that's to my point. He can't go in there and say we need segregation again, which ironically they would agree with. He has to frame it with liberalism's priors. He has to say the worst thing is racism, and you guys are making the racism happen. I don't think the worst thing is racism. I think the worst thing is getting killed when you're too young. I think that's worse than being a bigot. I think the girl in the Charlotte train, Irina, I think it's a bigger crime, it's a bigger blight on society that she was killed in her 20s than it would have been if she said, I'm not sitting near a black guy. They disagree. They think the bigger crime would be saying you don't want to sit near a black guy and you just have to live with whatever happens if you sit near them. And Crowder is kind of reinforcing that point. He's saying the worst thing that could ever happen would be if white people got mad. And I don't want them to get mad at you. You know what? I think it's about time, honestly. I think it's about time we do broken window policing again. I think it's about time we do stop and frisk. I think it's about time we stop saying, well, I know a nice black guy, so therefore blacks don't commit crime. I think it's about time we put that away and we restore order in society. And these people don't want that. They fundamentally don't. They may say they want order. They may say, well, they should have locked him up. They don't believe that. We've established that they don't actually fundamentally believe that.
Let's be frank about that, Steve. Now, first of all, here's why I disagree with you emphatically, right? Number one, when it is historically proven when there are riots, and this is the crazy part, most times we as blacks, we tend to riot in our own neighborhood for the same reason why we're not 12 times likely to kill a white.
Yeah, you riot in your own neighborhood, and that's why stores leave, and that's why you complain about food deserts in your neighborhood. It's not a food desert because they just arbitrarily assigned grocery stores to the white and Asian areas. There are food deserts because you riot and because you steal from the stores. There's a great map out there that overlays the places in South Central LA near Compton. It overlays the map of where the 60s black riots happened, and it overlays where grocery stores are no longer featured anymore. And that map is a perfect mirror. Basically, I'm doing a horrible job of explaining it, but basically, the areas in the 60s that blacks rioted, those stores left, and there is now a food desert. That is not because the mustache twirling villain monopoly man CEO said, we're going to get Whole Foods out of black neighborhoods and make them eat trash. No, it's because they knew that their stores would be burnt down. Their stores were burnt down. And they knew there was no money to be made there. There is some truth to the capitalist, to the, it's kind of a trite line at this point, but, the idea that capitalism only sees one color, it's green. I think that's trite, but there is some truth there. If capitalists were making money in black areas, they would be operating there. They don't make money. Their stores get burnt down. Their stores get looted. That's why they do not operate there anymore. It is what it is.
Person because of that fact that the penalty is going to be much harsh. Okay, if black people were really the kind of threat and menace to white people as we're going to sit here and say that they are, never mind the stats, there's no way in the world that most of us would still be here, because guess what, you guys would find a way to deal with the problem if it is from a multiplicity of angles. All right, so like I say, when I'm saying this right now, when it comes to stats, who controls that narrative, Steve?
We did deal with it. You know, we dealt with it in liberals in blue cities, cashless bail, catch and release. We did everything that was demanded. Defunded the police in certain neighborhoods. Guess what?
No blacks have asked for defunding the police.
Oh yeah,
officers.
oh yeah. I will say it's mostly.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's mostly black women. It's mostly black activist women, and they're not representative of black men. I get that.
Just like the guy who killed the lady on the bus that you were talking about earlier, right? He doesn't represent Black America and what he did. I mean, listen.
Here's where he does. Just listen to me here.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point by Crowder there. You know, when you get into these kind of debates on the racial crime issue, it's always this it's really just a deflection at the end of the day. You know, he doesn't represent us. Like what would it even look like if he did represent y'all? Like, does he have to carry a card? Does he have to say, I'm a member of the black community? Like, what would that even look like? Like, he doesn't represent us. It's like, okay, man, well, like Crowder pointed out, the stats bear out what he's saying about black crime. It's 1350, and you know, not every member of that 13% that's committing 50% of the violent crime has to carry a, you know, I'm a member of the black community card. Like, it is what it is. And there, like I said earlier, it's just kind of this reflexive, it's a reflexive defense of their tribe, you know. Other races are a little bit more honest about it, and kind of have more accountability, but there's just zero accountability in this issue or in this video. You know, to think that the woman that was stabbed on the Charlotte train isn't representative of black crime because that guy, he wasn't one of us. I mean, look, in terms of the 1350 stat, he was one of y'all. He was a black man. Like, he doesn't need to sign up for the NAACP to represent that stat. So, like I said, these debates just get tedious, and that's kind of why I was saying earlier, there's really not much of a point doing this. Like, he needs to be telling people and young people to separate, not to try to go for this, like, this false unity thing that really the people Crowder's talking to have no interest in. They don't have an interest in unity. They want to prove their point.
Here's where he does. Here's where he does to a lot of people. This is what I'm just trying to.
And that's fair on Crowder's point. He says, no, he does represent. Okay, good point.
The last time I sat and listened, but I want you to hear something really important. Here's where he does. Young white, that person's parents, that person's relatives, look at it and go, wait a second. This guy was out 14 times, and the reason he was out 14 times was because a black female judge, in the name of restorative justice, who has received funding from NGOs, said, we're going to have cashless bail and
I doubt they know what NGOs are, by the way, but side point.
catch and release and the IOU policy in the name of racial justice. So people are going, my daughter's dead because it would have been racist to keep this guy in jail. You need to understand that, right?
And that's a good point by Crowder. I mean, that's a good way of framing it. Like, yeah, the reason that it is racial is because he was let go for racial reasons at the end of it. You know, the guy earlier said, well, that may just be one judge. It's like, no, that's the thought behind these judges. Like, that's the ideology behind these judges who are pro cashless bail, pro letting, you know, felons get arrested 20 times and keep letting them out. It is racial. I mean, just look at how they treated like the J6ers, you know. That's always the example I like to use. Like, you know, the south side of Chicago is not livable. Detroit's not livable. Baltimore's not livable. Philadelphia is not livable. Jackson, Mississippi, not livable. Memphis, not livable. And, you know, instead of basically like with J6, you saw how they could use technology in order to catch people they want to catch. These cities that I just named, they're just a war zone. For some reason, we don't have the wherewithal. We don't have the technological ability to catch the Black Crip members who shot up a barbecue and killed a 6-year-old. We don't have the ability to fly a drone and show up to their house with a battering ram at 3 a.m. No, that's reserved for the white people. That's reserved for the people on J6 who got tired of how the government was treating them. But when it comes to you know, Chicago, well, we just can't seem to do that. It's the same story every time.
But you understand it though, right? Because you just made those same judgments about people who existed 150 years ago.
Yeah. But
this is someone's sister.
Her flawed judgment does not represent the opinion of black people, number one.
It doesn't and does it really not represent the feelings of black people? Because earlier the guy said that it was a crack in the justice system that the guy who stabbed the white girl on the Charlotte train, it was a flaw in the justice system that he was allowed to go free after being arrested 17 times or whatever. And they said, well, he should have been. But like I said earlier, if he was arrested after, or if he was committed to, life in prison, whatever, after 3 felony arrests, would they support that? Absolutely not. So they like to play this double game of like, well, he's not representative of us. It's like, no, he is, because you would support him being let free if he was sentenced to life in prison. You would say, he a young man, he was about to be a rocket scientist. It's like, no, man, he was gonna kill that girl. It's like it's again, it's this reflexive tribal defense.
There you go.
It represents a systemic correction.
Well, let's talk about systemic correction. And you know what the problem really is? When you defund opportunities to provide adequate psychiatric and institutionalization for those kind of people, that wouldn't have happened. Because let me tell you something.
That is a common talking point. I've heard this among black liberal friends of mine. Whenever you bring up the institutionalizing people who have mental health issues, they say, well, it was actually Reagan who cut the mental health. But then in the same breath, they'll say it was Reagan who arrested all the black people. So which is it? Did Reagan cut the mental health, or did he arrest all the black people? It's like, I don't really care what you put it under. I don't care if you put it under institutionalizing. I don't care if you call it 3 strikes you're out. I want criminals off the street. I want it to be safe for my wife and my kid, and I had to go to downtown Dallas and not have to worry about getting robbed or mugged. It's really that simple, but like I said, it's tedious. They're getting caught in, well, but actually it was Reagan who cut but also he was a racist because he locked us up. It's like, dude, call it what you want, man. I want to be safe, and people want to be safe, and you don't. You fundamentally want to run cover for the criminals. You view them as one of yours. I'm sure this guy over here has worn a shirt at some point that says, free my nigga, free Poochie, whatever, because he was just 19 when he got locked. Like, yeah, man, we're going to have to arrest a lot of people. The meme is, they say we need to have the prison population. I say we need to triple the prison population, quadruple, quintuple.
Even as a black person, as a judge, if you come before me 11 times with all of the information that you provided me with, you know what, before I release you, you know what, I'm going to have you committed to an institution, because number one, the greater good is for me to preserve public integrity, and that's on both sides of the spectrum. I don't give a damn if you're black or white.
But he doesn't really believe that, though. He says that he wants to, what did he say? He wants to secure safety for everyone.
Good is for me to you know what? I'm going to have you committed to an institution, because number one, the greater good is for me to preserve public integrity, and that's on both sides of the spectrum. I don't give a damn if you're black or white.
So he says it's in my interest to secure public integrity. He doesn't believe that, though. He's already said he doesn't believe that, because when it comes to black people, he says, well, no, actually, it was the slavery that made him commit the crime. They don't actually believe what they're saying, and it kind of gets into what I was saying in that tweet. Someone is really only lying if they have the intellectual capacity to lie. I don't think this guy is lying. I think, and I'm not trying to be mean, but it is kind of an IQ gap thing. It's like, does this guy really know he's being duplicitous? Does this guy really know that what he said earlier doesn't align with what he's saying now? I don't think so. I don't think it's malicious. I just think that these kind of debates are fruitless. I don't think there's nothing to be gained from this, because these people will just reflexively defend their in-group. And like I've said, Crowder needs to be telling young people to separate, to not be anywhere near these kind of people. I'm sorry. They made it this way. Not me. I don't go out there and shoot people. They made it this way. And you really can't fault the group for saying, I don't want to be a part of that. But what Crowder is doing here is this kind of debate. It makes people think that, well, if only we just had a good debate and both sides got to be heard. And, I listened to them, and I said my piece, and I think we came to an understanding. We even high-fived afterwards. It's like, dude, that's not going to save you when you're on a DART train at 3 a.m. and a black vagrant criminal decides that you were, doing voodoo on them, and they decide to stab you in the neck. That's not going to save you. You know what will save you? A little bit of healthy skepticism about whether or not integration was good.
Why do you think they're not committing them to an institution?
I mean,
Well, there's
because there's no
several
funding
reasons.
available.
No,
there's several
they were
reasons
shut
why.
down in the name of restorative racial justice.
And his
That's
family-
why he wasn't institutionalized.
And his family
He should have
pushed
been in
against
prison.
it too. His family pushed against it in
Yeah.
certain like they were. There's certain some of them cases where they were in court. His family was saying, "Don't put him in there."
I know. And who gives a shit?
But I'm just saying
Yeah,
that's part of it. But when you only include the part that says the judge, you're not giving the whole
No,
story,
no,
and that's
that-
what media
that
ends
is-
up doing. That creates these tensions.
I do kind of agree with this guy. The focus on the judiciary is kind of a red herring. It's a little bit of a misnomer. I see this a lot from the MAGA crowd, and it's like, anytime there's a black criminal that's let loose and kills people, they say, we need to arrest those Democrat judges. It's like, yeah, there's some truth there. They are activist judges, but that's kind of obfuscating around the fact that like the criminal did the crime. And I think it kind of gets to an issue that like Republicans really aren't that comfortable with like what it would actually look like to crack down on crime racially. Like what that would look like is like going neighborhood by neighborhood, zip code by zip code of people largely black that are committing the crime and throwing them in vans and frankly not giving them due process. I'm fine with overriding the due process step because they've forfeited that right, in my opinion. It's not, I mean, it is the judges, but it's not, that's a way of kind of circumventing the real issue. The criminals do the crime. The judges are a problem, but we need to change the thinking. It's not the judges, it's the criminals that are pulling the trigger, that are stabbing the people. So until, the right wing gets comfortable with seeing like vans full of largely black people, maybe there'll be a few Mexicans, a few white people, whatever, but largely black people siphoned off into prison, you're not going to see a change because there's like this uncomfortability with being called a real racist. Like, no, you're a real racist. It's like, no, man, I just want my community to be safe. And if that means, putting these people in vans and driving them 3 hours into the middle of nowhere into a 20-story detention facility, I'm for that. Build bigger prisons.
And people, they straw
the
man,
tension
they
is there.
straw man's
The
conversations and
tension
only
is there.
tell
No,
part
it's
of
not
it.
a strong. The tension is there. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The tension is already there. White people are.
Crowder's getting frustrated, rightfully so. I'd be frustrated in this. Both sides are getting frustrated because, I mean, Crowder's trying to use it's again, I'm going back to the example I used in the tweet. Crowder is using logic against people that really have the mental capacity of like 9-year-olds. And that sounds mean, but tell me that like listen to this whole thing. Tell me that this does not sound like you are arguing as a grown adult arguing with a 6-year-old about whether or not Santa exists. Well, no, but they leave cookies. No. Yeah, Santa clearly exists. There were cookies that were eaten. He wrote his name on the package. It says Santa. Come on, man. That's what this whole argument sounds like. And it's going to lead to this consternation, this frustration from Crowder, where he's like, no. But listen to my logic, dude. They're not listening to you. That's why this whole thing is moot. It's a moot point.
Afraid to go in black neighborhoods because
So
the
should
stats
black
you don't
people
believe.
be afraid to go to school because a white person go come shoot the
Shoot it
school
up,
up?
right.
Because every time we see
It's not
that,
even close.
that's what keeps
It's
happening.
not even
I'll go to
close.
church.
But now you're going to ignore. Now you're going to.
And see, this is the stage in the argument that I've been in before in the black barbershop, when it totally, like, what are we in? 38 minutes in. He held it together pretty well for the first 30 minutes. He kept everyone in check. People were speaking respectfully. People were raising their hand. This is the stage in the argument where they're going to get violent. Like if Crowder did not have a security team and a camera crew and he weren't rich and famous, they would have already started hitting him. Like, that's the thing. Like, to any person who thinks all we need is just a good debate about black crime, I need to go to their areas and tell them they need to read Thomas Sowell and read the Constitution. Dude, they don't want to read. They want to hit you and steal your watch. Like, I'm sorry. But like, Crowder is at that point where he's getting frustrated. They're talking out of turn. This is when you need to leave. You shouldn't even be there, but this is when you need to say, all right, we had our debate. I'm going our separate ways.
Ignore that.
I'm scared to go to church.
You scared to go to church, but you sitting in the barber shop with almost 12 black men. Come on, Steve. Now let's be realistic.
Who do you think's more at risk sitting down right
Exactly. He know he's not in danger around us.
No,
We
I'm
don't
much
hunt
more
him.
risk. I'm
We
much
don't,
more
we don't do that.
And here's the irony. Here's the irony.
So what's even the argument there? Like, so, like, Stephen, you don't believe what you say because you're entrusting us to not kill you? Like, is that like, okay, 1350 doesn't exist because we haven't killed you yet. Okay, like you're threatening to. Like, what's even the argument here? But again, there's no argument. It's just, it's this grab bag. It's this grasping at straws thing. It's not productive.
You know, I just watched my friend die, right?
Steve, let me say this. Know what bothers me about white people, and this is kind of
Everything.
No, not everything. Not everything.
Well, we smell like wet dog or something. I've heard all this stuff.
Let me tell you what bothers me about white people. Let's be honest here, because I work with a lot of white people, so I have nothing against them at all. Let me be honest with you. But the problem that the biggest problem that I have.
Okay, what's this? So this guy's breaking it down. He says, "Here's my problem with the white people." Okay, everyone's being quiet. Let's hear what his big gripe is with white people.
Is that you constantly get bombarded with the excuses, all right? When you really come down to it, let's be.
Oh, that's rich. I'm going to let him finish. I'm going to go back 5 seconds and let him say the whole thing. But the idea that this guy's big problem with white people is that they make excuses, not to be too on the nose here, but hey, Kettle, you're calling the pot black. Like, I think it's black people that are notorious for making excuses, right? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've been too indoctrinated with right-wing ideology. I think it's black people that are notorious for making excuses. Oh, it's the food desert. Oh, we don't have enough of them resources in school. Oh, we didn't get enough funding. Oh, but slavery happened 406 years ago today. I think it's actually black people that make the excuses. It's just rich for him to say that, like, sure, you could say that, like, maybe the problem with white people is like, okay, maybe they're too liberal. That would be my critique. They're a little too individualistic. They don't understand group dynamics. Yeah, okay, fair. The problem that I identify with white people is not that they they engage in excuse making. That's a very black thing. And that's not even like a white critique. That's every race says that about black people. Asians, Hispanics, Indians, whites. They all say, like, yeah, black people just can't seem to take accountability. So for him to flip that on Steven, who's like a multimillionaire, like, solo business owner, it's rich. It's rich.
Honest, man, and let's be really truthful with one another. Ask yourself, what do you expect when you look at architectural oppression, economic depravity?
Architectural oppression? Hold on, let's go back to all of what he was saying.
Man, and let's be with the excuses, all right? When you really come down to it, let's be honest, man, and let's be really truthful with one another. Ask yourself, what do you expect when you look at architectural oppression?
Architectural oppression. That's a term I've never even heard. They're pulling out new excuses. It's 2025 and we have a brand The excuse factory is humming. The excuse factory is humming. We have new excuses. Architectural oppression? Does he mean systemic? Like, is that what he's getting at? Like architectural, like the structure is built, or does he mean like buildings are built to oppress blacks? Like, I don't know that he knows what he means.
Economic depravity and social disparity. What would you call it? I mean,
Bad decisions.
Huh?
Bad decisions.
Bad decisions.
Yeah, I think right now in 2025.
Now, that's a good point by Crowder. I do like to be, I'm going to be fair to Crowder. That is what I said earlier. It's decisions. What the black people want you to believe is that the money and the wealth are arbitrarily just passed out like a deck of cards at a casino. Well, this guy got a good hand. I got a bad hand. No, dude. When you live in a good neighborhood, it's not because the white government dropped a pallet of cash at your doorstep and said, "Time to live good, white man." No, it's because of choices that led you there. The reason these guys are the reason they have a chip on their shoulder is because they don't live an affluent lifestyle. They don't live a good lifestyle. Those are because of choices they made. That's not because the white government said, we are not going to disperse the cash to Jaquan or Darius, but we are going to give it to Ryan and Austin. Like, no, it's literally choices you make in your life that lead you to where you're at.
Bad decisions. I think everyone can make better
And you
decisions.
know what? I'll even go here with you. In all fairness, I think that's absolutely true. So my question
Good on that guy. Good on the blind guy. He said that's absolutely true. Good point.
for you is, how do we move past this?
Yeah. Okay.
How do we move past
I
this?
agree with you.
Okay, now we're getting a little meta. Okay, the guy says, how do we move past this? My take, we don't move past this. We separate. We don't, there is not going to be some epic handshake among the blacks and the whites where we go, we finally understand each other. No. They are jealous that you made better decisions. They feel like you literally, when you make money, you are taking money from them. And this is how it works in Africa too, by the way. Hegel talked about this. I might put the link below, but Hegel talks about this in Race, History, and Nationalism, I want to say. I forget what it's titled, but I'll tag it below. Hegel talks about the observations that European explorers made in Africa, and it's the same thing of like, when a rich person made a lot of money in the village or whatever, that person's wealth was siphoned off because their family would like think that they were blessed by the gods with money, so they would have endless money, so they would always ask for money from them, and then eventually that wealthy person who made good decisions was eventually bankrupted. That is what happens. This is like it is genetic. It's jealousy is partially genetic. The propensity for jealousy is genetic. Because you can't imagine if you're an inherently jealous person, you can't really imagine that somebody did it on their own. You think that they had a handout. Oh, they must have cheated their way there. It's like, no, actually a lot of people get to where they're at by making good decisions, working hard. The people in this barbershop they don't internalize that. They think that anybody who made it, unless they're black. If they're black and wealthy, they think they made it through hard work and determination. If you're not black and are successful, well, then you must have cheated. Oh, you must have screwed someone over. It's like, nope, that's why you're where you're at, man. That's why you are there.
I agree. And I think maybe we'll find some common ground here. If we agree there is personal accountability and bad decisions, and I think we also all agree that feminist white are the worst demographic in the country, along with lesbians.
I don't like that. I'm going to call that out. The idea, and that's a cop-out that a lot of conservatives use. Crowder just said it right there. He said it. White bitches are the worst problem in the world. They're the biggest. And look at this guy's face. He's laughing because he knows he's ragging on his own group. I don't like the offshoring of responsibility, the deferring of responsibility to white. And I'm not simping for white women. I'm just saying that it's a cop-out. It's a cop-out that conservatives use. They say, actually, it's not the black crime. It's those white liberal women. You know who's not committing robberies? You know who's not breaking down people's doors and doing home invasions? You know who's not robbing you for your wallet at 2 a.m. at the gas station? White women. White women are not doing that. You know who is doing that? Black criminals. Sorry, it is what it is. I don't say that with any pleasure. I don't say that with any Schadenfreude. I don't say that with a glib tone. It's just factual. It is not those liberal white bitches doing that. People like to rag on the Democrats. They look at an area like the Northeast, like Maine through northern Massachusetts, and say, those are liberals, those white bitches. It's like, you know what? Those Democrats and those liberals actually made pretty livable cities, actually. Is there a lot of crime in rural New Hampshire? No. So I don't know why we have this reflexive thing to undercut our own argument. I don't like that. It's a way to try to gain buy-in from minorities, but mainly black people, and say, no, it's actually those liberal bitches. It's like, what? Are they committing crime? No, it's people that look like this. Hate to say it. This guy may be a business owner. Fair enough. I'm sure his rap sheet probably is not optimal.
There's a great book that says that they were her property. See, that's what I'm saying.
Like I'm telling you, like believe me, I don't have a. Hold on. Let me just clarify, and I mean that.
But Crowder is good at getting, like I said earlier, Crowder is good at getting buy-in from the group, and that's what he's doing here. I just don't think that the rhetoric does anything. Like, you think that by shitting on like white women, you're going to convince them that like racism isn't real? No, you're just offshoring like their hatred for you and putting it on women. It's like, I'm not saying he needs to simp for white women, but like, you need to call the problem what it is. It's black crime. It is black crime and black degeneracy, and their inability to behave in a way that meshes with civilization, frankly.
Angry white feminist bitches and lesbians, because if they didn't vote, we wouldn't have half of the shit. But, and this is one thing I appreciate about black men, that white men are so proud.
Here we go.
Black men can talk about these things, and black men are okay being masculine. White men are told it's sexist. There's a lot there. Personal accountability decisions. Now, just take that and apply it.
This is cucked, by the way. I love black men because they talk about women honestly, and we can't, and you guys can. Yeah, dude, you know what? You are actually allowed to talk like that. You're self-censoring, man. And you're trying to get buy-in from a group that doesn't like you. I mean, maybe one or two of them do, but like they fundamentally think that you stole from them and that you are where you're at because you cheated or you screwed a black person over. Your great-grandfather screwed a black person over and took his 40 acres and a mule one day. It's like, no, dude, they don't like you, man. Like, stop trying to get buy-in. Separate.
What you kind of just did here is you blamed white people, without realizing it, for systemic discrimination, and that removes autonomy from a white person to be accountable and also rewarded for their good decisions. So if we agree it's bad decisions.
He's getting too theoretical. They're not capable of these kind of arguments, man. The threshold for I forgot where I found it. I might try to find it at some point. There was a tweet, and it came with some statistics behind it, with IQ studies. The threshold for understanding, the IQ threshold for understanding something like per capita, like understanding like these very theoretical statistical arguments, like very high altitude stuff. The IQ threshold for understanding per capita, for example, is something like 105, 110 IQ, maybe a little higher. Not trying to be mean, but I don't think the people in this room, aside from Crowder and maybe his camera crew, are necessarily bumping up against that 100 IQ. I don't think so. So when Crowder does this, like he's even doing it with his hands, it's like, okay, let's not talk. Okay, hands off. Let's go big picture. Bro, they're not capable of big picture. And that's why for the last 5 minutes, they've been talking about individual cases. Like I said earlier with the blind guy. The guy Crowder was talking about crime stats, and the blind guy went, well, what about the time I was pulled over? It's like, dude, I'm not talking about individual things. 13% does 50. 6% does 49. These are stats that you have to deal with, but they're not capable of actually like taking a holistic view. It's an IQ thing. I'm sorry.
Personal accountability. We'd all be against reparations, and we'd all be against the criminal justice reform.
I'm definitely for reparations.
Oh, I got to run that back. Listen, he said, we'd all, guys, here's my appeal to humanity. Here's my appeal to humanism. We're all humans. And if you agreed with me, you'd be against reparations. What did they say?
Reparations, and we'd all be against the criminal justice reform.
I'm definitely for reparations.
See that to me? You said excuse.
Yeah.
They chimed in when he said reparations. The guy went, "Oh, I'm definitely for reparations," because they don't know what reparations means, and they just hear like cash. They're like, cash for me, cash for Daquan. Yes, I'm for that. It's like, and Crowder's like, well, I don't know what to tell you, dude. They know what to tell you. They want things from you. Your whole debate here is worth nothing, dude. They want your watch. They want your car, dude. Like, poor Crowder, man. You try to do these high-minded these high-minded debates, these very theoretical. Well, I'm going to talk to them about where they think the thinking has shifted in the last 18 months. And well, what about the idea? And they're like, no, give me that cash, bro.
That sounds like an excuse to me.
You ain't paid me back. You ain't paid me for what you owe me.
And see, and Crowder is right there. He says, sounds like an excuse to me. That is true. That's true. But, you know, he gets nervous. He picks up his water bottle because they're starting to yell. I mean, look at that, dude. Prey eyes, elevated eyebrows. He's like, oh, he's caught. Look, watch how this goes.
You said excuse. Yeah. That sounds like an excuse to me.
You ain't paid me back. You ain't paid me for what
you ain't paid me back. The idea of reparations is ridiculous. The idea that people today should pay. Honestly, I even think that's a little bit of an obfuscation. Because what a lot of right-wing people say is like, I had nothing to do with slavery, so therefore I shouldn't pay reparations. Dude, I don't even think if you were alive back then, you should pay for reparations. You know, what they're going to cite is 40 acres and a mule. You know what came with 40 acres and a mule? It came with the responsibility on the black farm owner's part that he had to work the land. He had to grow the land. He had to be profitable. That was the agreement. If you could work your land and be a good farmer, then we will give you 40 acres and a mule. I'm like, what do you want me to say? Black people are not good farmers. Look at South Africa. Look at Rhodesia. These people kicked out the white farmers. And then Rhodesia, I think in 2003, 2004, begged for the white farmers to come back after they kicked them out. South Africa is about to go through the exact same thing. It's the same thing that's going to happen here. You're going to give black people a lot of farmland. They won't know how to work it. That's what happened with 40 acres and a mule. It wasn't this like every black person's going to get land. It's like, no, the agreement was you have to work the land. They didn't want to work the land, which is why a lot of black people chose to stay in this weird middle ground between freed and enslaved. It was like they were sharecroppers. They were like, well, I'm going to stay here, but I'll be semi-free. That was probably the smart move, if we're being honest. That's a topic for another day. But, you know, here we are 300 years later, and you have people that have never worked a day in their life, worked with their hands, and they're saying, you owe me. Steven Crowder owes you nothing. The world owes you nothing. The word deserve even is a little bit of a misnomer. No one deserves anything. You know, when somebody gets hit in the crosswalk, right? You know, you're walking across the street and a drunk driver hits you and that person dies. Did that person deserve that? No, obviously not. Did you know, Elon Musk deserve to be Elon Musk? No. You make things happen. No one deserves anything. The word deserve needs a lot more scrutiny.
Owe me.
What did I take from you?
You can't start another bill
What did I take from
until
you?
you pay this old bill.
What did I take from you?
You didn't take but your ancestors.
But you just said you.
When I say you, I meant it as a euphemism.
But can you understand why white people hear it and get pissed off?
Yeah.
Because I can take shit.
But they're not mad about the advantages that.
This guy's getting worked up. This guy wants to hit Crowder. This guy doesn't know what's going on. This guy hasn't said a word. This guy says, his face says, man, I just came in to get a haircut. I wasn't trying to get into nothing. And this poor girl doesn't know what's going on. She's like, what did we walk into? I don't even know why she's here. She's not even holding a camera. But yeah, I mean, Crowder is asking the right question. He's like, what do I owe you? And I mean, the flaw in Crowder's logic is that he already admitted that horrible things were done to black people. And while that's true, that's not an argument that you should concede. You shouldn't admit that thing, because then this guy will correctly say, well, I didn't mean you, I meant your ancestors. And then Crowder, my guess is that Crowder will say, well, I'm from Canada and my family's from Ireland. How did we own slaves? It's like, that's tedious, dude. The thing is that everybody makes their choices in the year 2025. If you're poor, it's because you made your choices. If you're in jail, it's because you made your choices. It is what it is, man.
Were built into their lives.
So you want young people to pay? Sounds like an excuse.
Nobody wants to address. And
Sounds like an excuse.
even without paying us back, Steve, know what my thoughts are on this here. Give us an opportunity to exercise our ability and our autonomy. Let me give you a perfect example. There's a guy.
Give us an opportunity to express our autonomy. Tell me where that is not happening in 2025. Is there any sector of society where Black people are boxed out of because of the color of their skin? I mean, it sounds like a basic Republican talking point, but it is true. Where are Black people being actively boxed out because of the color of their skin? Not because of their behavior, not because of their criminal record, not because they couldn't pass a drug test. I mean, because a business owner said, "You are a Black. I am not letting you work here. I will not let you eat here." Tell me where that's happening. And, if you want to take it a step further, maybe that would be warranted based on the behavior of a lot of Black people. But that's not happening. That is absolutely not happening. And this guy is saying, just give us the autonomy. Where are you not getting autonomy? You have autonomy. You actually have entire banks that are incentivized to give Black people home loans. That's what caused the housing bubble of 2008, the Community Reinvestment Act of 1995, 96 under Clinton. It put disparate impact theory into law. It said if a bank, regardless of their intentions, is not loaning enough money to Black people, they can be found guilty by the Department of Justice that they are in fact racist. Okay, what happens when you put millions of undeserving people into homes they can't afford? You get the housing bubble of 2008. We're in a used car bubble right now. We're putting people in used cars for $900 a month because Daquan showed up with a stack of cash and you're not allowed to tell him, "No, I don't think you can make these payments." You're not allowed to say that anymore. We're destroying society in the name of liberalism and the name of equality. Equality doesn't exist. No two people are equal. Okay? Look, there are people that I know who are faster than me, who are taller than me, shorter than me, fatter than me, skinnier than me, smarter than me, dumber than me. No one's equal. You wouldn't, like I said earlier, you wouldn't look at two trees in the forest and say, "Are those trees equal?" No. One has more leaves, one has more branches, one is taller, one is shorter, one has a thicker trunk. Equality doesn't exist in nature.
To exercise our ability and our autonomy. Let me give you a perfect example. There's a gal right now, her name is Joy Reid. Look up her.
I know Joy Reid. She's out of her mind.
Look up
Joy Reid, old Joy Reid. Go back on my channel about 3 or 4 videos. I did a breakdown of Joy Reid, but I wonder where he's going with this. He said, "There's a girl named Joy Reid." Okay, let's hear.
right now, her name is Joy Reid. Look up her.
I know Joy Reid. She's out of her mind.
Look up her educational background. You don't think Harvard gave her a degree just because she was a Black person or DEI, do you?
I think she's an idiot.
Okay, so
But not because she's Black, but she's an idiot.
Okay, so you're entitled to that.
I think Van Jones is smart, and I disagree with him. Joy Reid has said things that are so verifiably untrue. It's insane.
Okay, so but as a man, I'm going to indulge you and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to indulge you. I'm going to respect your opinion, your frame of thought on that, right? I beg to differ tremendously, but nevertheless, though, that's why we're having this open discussion. But let's really talk about where we need to go from here on, and that is the fact.
Yeah, I mean, to tackle his point directly, Joy Reid was absolutely let into Harvard because she's a Black woman, for sure. I'm smarter than Joy Reid. I've never even done an IQ test, and I know I'm smarter than Joy Reid. When I analyzed her video, I saw all the talking points of a midwit Black person, which is that sweet spot. The midwit is the sweet spot between 110 and 120. And the thing is that, you can look at any racial IQ graph and it is what it is. I know that Thomas Sowell exists. I know that Clarence Thomas exists. I have a ton of respect for Clarence Thomas, actually. But the fact remains that 125 and beyond IQ black people are rare. It is what it is. So what do colleges have to do with a 110, 115 IQ black person in order to not be guilty of disparate impact theory? They have to let them in. Joy Reid does not belong at Harvard or wherever they say she went. She belongs at a DM. She belongs as the manager of like a DMV. And I hate to say that, but it's true. She's just smart enough to manage a small team of government workers. She's not an idiot. I wouldn't say she's an idiot. That's overplaying Crowder's hand. Crowder overplayed his hand there. She's not an idiot. She's a midwit. She's a midwit black person. And because there are so few truly intelligent, truly intelligent, because there are so few of those, the midwit black people get elevated like they're God. It's the same thing that happened with Obama, if you want me to be honest with you. I do think Obama was intelligent, but I don't think he was like earth-shattering intelligent. You know what I mean? I think Obama could conceptualize. I think he had the ability to look at the big picture. I don't think he was stupid. I think that's a Republican talking point. Obama was an idiot. No, he wasn't an idiot. But he was not at the level of like, a Schopenhauer, a Hegel. That's how people treat him. They treat him like a black philosopher. And the guy was probably like scraping 125 IQ. Clarence Thomas is probably up there. You don't get to be, I guess I'm wrong. Ketanji Jackson Brown is a Supreme Court justice. She's probably in the 110s. I should be a Supreme Court justice then.
That black people have every sense of entitlement as it relates to having reparations. And I'm going to tell you why, right? Because nobody has ever been as more loyal to white people despite the treatment than black people have, right?
Absolutely ridiculous. He said nobody's been more loyal to white people after the treatment they received than black people. Where is he even getting that? Is just like a total like ethno-narcissist talking point. I don't even know what he means by that. You're saying black people have been loyal to white. I don't even know if that would even be a good thing, but like, what are you talking about? Give me an example. That's what I would say if I were Crowder.
Nobody. You show me one race. You know what? They make options and opportunities available when other ethnicities come here or what have you that we will never get a chance to have, right? And then they turn around and
yeah, white man. Yeah, white man. Look down. Don't make eye contact. That's what they want from Crowder here. And I do respect Crowder for kind of holding the line a little bit. But the best position you can be in is not even having this convo. You need to let them do their thing in their barbershop, and you need to live 100 miles from anywhere that has an over 15 to 20% black population. And I don't use that number arbitrarily. I've actually looked it up. In cities, and like it's what I said, any city that has a black population above 15 to 20%, it is not safe. It's like that Cincinnati video I reviewed. The guy who got beat up outside of the club and got stomped in his head by a group of like 5 or 10 black people. Him and his family were at a jazz festival in Cincinnati, and they were boomers. They were a little bit older. They were probably in their 60s. And they said, we're going to go out for a fun night at the jazz concert. It was their predispositions that led them to the point they were at where they're getting stomped in the head by black people. If that were me, and I know this, to the people watching this video, it's not going to sound horrible, but to the outsider, this will sound horrible. If that were me and I show up to an event and it's over 50% black, I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I am calling an Uber. I'm calling a cab. I am doing a discreet walkout. Because you know what happens when venues that are over 50% black happen? All it takes is a little alcohol and the gunshots start ringing. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there. There's a reason I live where I do. Not going to dox myself, but there's a reason where I live where I do. I don't want to be near that. I don't want gunshots going through my window. I don't want black teens, the youth, running around breaking car windows. I don't want that. I've never had my car stolen. You know why? Because I'm conscious of my surroundings. They weren't. They had they had liberalism's priors, and they said, "Oh well, no, it's just a jazz concert. Yeah, there's some black people here, and they're grooving. They have a good time too." Nah, man, that's how you end up getting your head kicked in.
Tell us,
Loyal in what way?
stop asking about reparations. Whenever we want to ask for equality and fairness, it's a problem. So white America.
So it's been several $1 trillion. When is it?
He said, when we ask for equality, it's a problem. I think equality has been granted to you already.
Enough.
Wait, we spend $7 trillion on what? What did we spend it on?
Let's go back to Lyndon Johnson model.
Lyndon Johnson, you're talking about the war on poverty? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
1965?
Why was that done?
All right, but here's the deal.